I thought my husband and I were ready to start a family, but then a stranger sent me an email with screenshots of his text messages. He was helping his coworker make a plan to punish and break a 14-year-old boy just for being gay. I smiled at my husband at the dinner table that night, but inside, I knew my marriage was already dead. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we have a post that starts as a shocking relationship problem but ends in a very deep and heartbreaking tragedy. This post comes to us from the r/relationship_advice subreddit, written by a user named throwaway_lost wife. Let's dive into the post. I want to start by saying that I don't really know how my husband acts when he's at work. He works a normal office job, and I work in a daycare as a receptionist. We have a very normal life. We also recently bought our very first home together. I thought everything was going great. However, everything I thought I knew about him changed because of one email. It came from the wife of one of my husband's coworkers. We will call the coworker Edward and his wife Louise. Louise and Edward recently had their 14-year-old son, Jake, come out to them as gay. From Louise's email and the screenshots she sent me, I learned exactly what was happening behind her back. Louise has been very supportive of her son. She wants him to be happy. Her husband, Edward, pretended to be supportive when he was at home. But instead of actually supporting his child, he went to work and asked my husband for advice. Edward told my husband that he was very uncomfortable and angry about his son. And my husband. He supposedly tried to comfort Edward, but it was worse than that. My husband gave him step-by-step advice on how to fix his son, completely ignoring how the boy's mother felt. The screenshot she sent me showed the two of them talking about it. They were brainstorming ideas on how Edward could talk to his son one-on-one, making sure Louise was not there to protect the boy. They talked about how they were trying to get together outside of work, maybe over dinner, to make a plan. In the messages, my husband said that if it were his son, he would set him straight. He told Edward to push the boy. He said to take away his privileges. He said to stop taking him to normal sports and maybe force him into things he didn't want to do until he changed his mind. My husband even suggested that they go to dinner to talk about Edward's wife, Louise, because Edward was very angry that she was being so open and loving to their son. I never knew my husband felt this way. Before we got married, we talked about kids. He told me he would love our future children, no matter who they were. To read these messages made me feel sick. I called Louise right away. I apologized to her and tried to comfort her the best I could, even though I don't really know her. She was crying. She feels incredibly hurt and completely lied to by her husband. I want to help her as much as I can, and I want to help her son too. She told me she has not talked to her husband about the messages yet. She is thinking about doing it with her parents in the room because she doesn't think she is safe doing it by herself. I told her I am disgusted with my husband. I am coming from a different place because we don't have kids yet, but I know right now that I do not want to have kids with a man who thinks like this. For the next few weeks, I was trying to digest all of this emotionally. I cannot explain how angry I am at my husband. I don't want to be with him anymore. I want a divorce. However, I had to put my own selfish feelings aside. Louise told me she is not sure how she wants to handle her husband yet. It is so hard for me to live in this house, look at my husband, and not scream at him. But I do not want to put Louise in danger. If I yell at my husband, he might text Edward and tell him that we know. That could put Louise and her son in a very bad spot before they are ready. Her safety and her son's safety come first. Thinking about them keeps me grounded, but I am strongly considering divorce. I just want to support her in her timing. It is so hard to sit on the secret. 2 weeks later, I finally spoke to my husband. I was struggling so much with how to tell him without hurting Louise. But Louise finally called me and said she had spoken to her parents. They were going to help her confront Edward. She told me it was finally safe for me to talk to my husband. She also told me how much it hurt that Edward pretended to support their son, only to plot against him in secret. I felt lied to as well. My husband told me he would be fine with any orientation our children had. He was a complete fake. Part of me hoped maybe it was just an act for his coworker. But even if it was, how could I ever trust him again? When I spoke to him, I showed him the printed emails Louise sent. He did not deny sending the messages, but instead of saying sorry, he got mad at me. He said I was wrong to talk to Louise before him. He said, "I never go through your things." I thought about that hard. I could have talked to him first, but I was afraid of him telling Edward. I told him that. He said that was not an excuse and that our marriage comes first. When I asked him how he could say such awful things about a child, especially after telling me he would support our future kids, he turned cold. He said that I am probably not the woman he thought he married. He called me controlling for questioning his work behavior. He said he wanted space between us because he couldn't trust me. When I asked him straight up what he meant in those messages, he showed his true colors. He said Louise was stupid to support her son. He said he is tired of gender topics being everywhere. He said the boy only came out because it was popular and that he will regret it one day. After that, he said he was going to stay with his brother. I packed my bags and went to my parents' house. My trust is shattered. I am 26 years old and I am afraid I will never get married again. But I am not going to let fear make me stay with a monster. My parents are helping me get a lawyer. A year has passed since I wrote about my husband giving advice to a coworker on how to break his gay son. I have since divorced him, but the 14-year-old boy, Jake, has passed away. I honestly was not sure if I wanted to come back and write this. The past few months have been too much emotionally, but there was more going on at the time of my original post than I knew about, and you all need to hear it. Edward had already started his plan of taking Jake to hang out to try and convert him, long before Louise found those text messages. Edward told Jake not to tell his mother anything. Louise had a very hard time getting Jake to tell her what his father was saying to him when they were alone. She even got a therapist to help him and brought him Pride resources to try and undo the damage his father did. But it was not enough. Jake took his own life. He passed away while Louise and Edward were still going through their divorce. I had the chance to meet with Louise in person. She told me her parents are fully on her side, but she feels responsible for her son's death. She has been so hard on herself. She said she was never able to find out everything that happened between Jake and his father during those secret car rides. Even the therapist couldn't find out. She is currently trying to investigate Edward with a lawyer. As for me, I don't think I will ever be able to move on. I feel disgusted at myself for ever being married to a man who helped plan this. It has been hard to get out of bed on some days. I had to get a prescription from my doctor just to cope. When I asked Louise if there was anything I could do to help remember Jake, she said she wants to encourage others to keep fighting. She wants to ensure this happens to no one else. She is planning on getting involved in her community to help vulnerable children. I did not write this to brighten your day. I wrote this because it is something you need to hear. This is what hatred does. Louise is now my friend, and she is going through a lot, but she is strong. Thank you to everyone who read this. Let's read what the community had to say about this tragedy. One user pointed out the cruelty of the father. Edward murdered his son. He may not have pulled the trigger, but that boy is dead due to his intentional, malicious, cruel actions. This is directly why people want conversion therapy and abuse of LGBT kids to be banned. I dread to think what happened at those days out that the poor kid wouldn't tell his mom. Poor baby. Another commenter focused on the ex husband. Men who hide their moral beliefs from the women they date and marry are disturbing. They wouldn't get girlfriends if they were honest about how evil they are. I really hope the mother and OP can get involved in their local communities and realize this wasn't their fault. A final user shared their thoughts on homophobia. Denying homosexuality is freaking insane. It's natural, and by that I mean it's present in nature. Why wouldn't it be present in humans? I grew up on a farm. There are always animals that prefer their own gender. The other animals don't care. Only humans do this. It's very hard to read a post like this. As a narrator, I see a lot of dramatic relationship posts, but this one is truly heartbreaking. What we see here is how dangerous hidden hatred can be. Edward could not love his son for who he was, so he decided to mentally break him. And the OP's ex-husband is just as scary. He is the kind of man who acts nice and normal at home, but secretly helps a coworker hurt a child. OP was so scared that her life was over at 26 because of a divorce. But her divorce was actually a blessing. She saved herself from having children with a man who has no empathy. My heart breaks for Louise. The guilt she feels must be so heavy. She was fighting a battle to save her son, but her husband was secretly fighting against her. The fact that she is trying to turn her sadness into helping other children shows how strong she is as a mother. Jake deserved a better father. This post is a very sad reminder of why we need to protect and accept children exactly as they are.